Hello, welcome back to another video. My name is Gemma and today I'm going to be reviewing this book, 8 Lives of a Century Old Trickster by Mirinae Lee. So this book has been longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction, still to be determined if it will be shortlisted. And I think it was one of the ones that was less expected. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so I was quite intrigued. And on the front it says, slave, escape artist, murderer, terrorist, spy, lover, mother. So that tickled my pickle somewhat. So I was really interested to pick this up. I got it from the library, you can probably tell by the shininess. And yeah, let's have a chat about it. If you are interested in the Women's Prize, I am going to be reviewing as many Women's Prize books as I can on this channel. There will be other Women's Prize content. I also run the Women's Prize Plodalong with my good friends Charlie Brooke Reads and Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. So if you're interested, subscribe, stick around, and we'll talk all things Women's Prize. So this opens in a nursing home in South Korea, and we follow a young woman who is having a bit of a rough time, and she's just taken on a new role as an obituarist, and she is writing the obituaries for the residents of the nursing home, and she comes across Miss Mook, and Miss Mook is a little bit different to all of the other people, and one of the things that this young obituarist asks for is 3 words to describe their life. This woman says, I need 8. I have had 8 lives. And we then go into her story. I thought that was an excellent premise for a book. And we sort of see this woman's life over the century that she's lived, right? Century Old Trickster. And it's sort of up to you to decide whether you think she is telling the truth or fictionalising some parts of her life. So one of the things that I really loved about this book was the exploration of North Korea and South Korea and the lives of North Korean citizens. Miss Mook was born and raised in North Korea, and as most people know, that is a dictatorship. You are not allowed to leave. It's the most penned-in country in the world. No one's allowed in, no one's allowed out. That's the rules. But we see North Korea both pre and post the Second World War, and then pre and post the Korean War. So we get a lot of different perspective of things that happened, atrocities that happened across those 2 wars from this woman's perspective, and it really enlightens me. If you have read the non-fiction book A River in Darkness, and you enjoyed it, then I really think you will enjoy this. Also, it's looking at similar things but from a female perspective, which I very much appreciated. At first I found it a little tricky because it jumps around the timeline. So we don't start with the first life, I think we start with the 5th life. And it sort of jumps around and you're almost getting different perspectives in each of these lives, so you kind of have to work out who it is and how it relates to the other parts of the story and fit it together like a puzzle, which I found really satisfying. Come the end, I was like, oh, now I understand all of this now. So I thought that worked really well. I would say one thing, it wasn't necessarily a negative for me, but I think it will be something that a lot of people struggle with, is that there is a lot of unpleasantness in this book. There is a lot of brutality, there is a lot of sexual and physical abuse, and it does not shy away from that at all. You are thrown into that right from the off, and it talks about a lot of the atrocities of war. So if that's not your jam, then you are not going to get on with this book at all. I would say that does soften somewhat towards the second half of the book. I would say the more difficult content is front loaded, and it is shocking, and I think actually that is what Lee is trying to do. She's trying to show us how horrific those 2 wars in close succession were for the people of North Korea, and what they had to live through and what they had to do to survive, and that's at the essence what this is. It's a survival story. It's the story of one woman's life, But it's also a little bit multi-generational because we hear about her parents, how they came to be where they are, and also subsequent generations. So I think this just ticked all of my boxes. It was heartbreaking. I did tear up a little at the end. It was telling me about a people and a culture that I didn't know so much about, and it was absolutely enthralling from start to finish. So in conclusion, I loved this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. I am really hoping to see this shortlisted because I think it is really inventive in the way that it has presented the narrative, and the story is a story that I don't think is often told. Certainly nothing that I have come across. And I think if you enjoyed things like The Mountains Sing, which looks at multiple generations of war from a Vietnamese perspective, this is doing similar things from a Korean perspective, I would say, though much more traumatic. And The Mountains Sing was a traumatic book, so that just gives you sort of a gauge. But yeah, if you like that, I think you will like this. And yeah, I would love to know in the comments if you have read this, what you thought. If you haven't read it, if you think you might give it a go now. And yeah, a win for me on the Women's Prize long list. If you want to see another book that certainly ticked all my boxes, I will leave my review for Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy here, and I will see you all very soon with another one. Bye guys!